make it a better place. It'll take creation.
Hi everybody, this is Tina. Welcome to my video today, you guys. I am going to be starting a new series, and typically I'm going to be posting these videos on Thursdays, and what I'm going to be doing is walking you through different things. Today we're starting with embossing. I'm going to be walking you through, I have one planned for re-inking your ink pads and different tips for using your ink pads. I'm going to be doing one about trimmers. Basically, I want to do some videos and answer some questions that I get all of the time. So there's certain questions that I just get over and over, either in YouTube comments or I will get emails. And so I want to do these and just share with you guys my thoughts on different topics. And then also, like when I do my trimmer review, I'm going to be reviewing a couple other trimmers that I use and telling you why I use them. And so it's not always just going to be specific Stampin' Up! Product, but it's going to be based on a topic and tips and tricks on that topic. So today we are talking about embossing powder. So I'm going to show you how I store my embossing powder, some of the tools and different things that I use for embossing, and then also where I store them. So let's start out with how I store my embossing powder. So I get these little containers. You can get these containers. I originally found them at TJ Maxx. That's where I originally came across them. Now this is the same system that Jennifer McGuire uses, Wendy Cranford uses it, Christina Warner. This is not like I didn't come up with this idea. I happened to see it and loved the idea. And so I found these at TJ Maxx originally. You can get them on Amazon. I really love the gray color. I have some that are blue. You know, the color does not really matter. If I had been able to find the gray ones originally, I would have got all gray. So, and these also come in several different sizes. I love this size. They come in a 4-pack on Amazon. Over on my coordinating blog post, you are going to be able to find links for every single thing I talk about, okay? So you can get these in a 4-pack. They're super nice because they close really well, okay? And then you open it up, you pop that top off, and it's awesome, okay? I keep a couple on hand that are empty so that if I get a new embossing powder, I'll have some containers on hand, okay? I am going to show you where I store these in my Alex drawers at the very end of the video, okay? So you'll need these containers. They're not very expensive. Off the top of my head, I don't know what I spent on them, but for a pack of 4, it's not very expensive, okay? So here's another one that's empty. You can just see I have some that are empty on hand. The other thing that you're going to need is these spoons. I'm almost out. They're these little spoons. I'll link these on Amazon. FYI, they come in a packet of 100. So I didn't need 100. I actually just found somebody and we split a pack. I bought some off of them. That's a really awesome thing to do if you have some crafty friends and you want to split a pack. That's great. But these are just ice cream sample spoons. Sometimes I've even heard a couple of my crafty friends say they just went into an ice cream, like a Baskin Robbins or a Cold Stone, and just asked for a handful of these. And I think it probably catches people off guard and they're like, sure, I guess you can have some spoons. But that's always an option. So I keep these in a little bag. And then the other thing you're going to need is these little mini command hooks. Now the large ones do not work for this. Okay, I originally got the large ones thinking it didn't matter. It does. You need the minis. Okay, and you'll see why. So I just keep these all together. It's just my little supply container and I keep it right in my drawer so I'm ready to go, okay? So those are the few things you're gonna need, and then this is the way I store my embossing powder, okay? So a few things, I originally kind of labeled them with a label maker. I got lazy and I just started writing on the top. I'm not all that particular about every single thing has to be done with a label maker. Listen, the label maker tape is expensive. So, you know, I'm totally fine with whatever. So what you do is you pop this open, you pour your embossing powder in here, and then you put a command hook on the top and then your spoon. So this way when you are embossing, you just scoop it out, pour it on your project, that kind of thing. The one thing that is a bummer about these containers is where the lid, well, this one doesn't have it. This blue one does not have that. Let me find one that does. I didn't realize that. This one doesn't. I know, does my copper one? Let me grab my white. Am I crazy? I guess I'm a little bit crazy. Okay, so you can see right here with my white, see how that gets in the groove of where the lid pops on, and then sometimes it can get up here and like down in here when you're not careful. It's just the way the grooves are on these. It can be a little bit annoying if you're pouring this out, because sometimes you'll see that I do that. So that's how you do it. This is Melon Mambo embossing powder. I just have Stampin' Up! Embossing powders. I'm getting ready to get some copper embossing powder from a different company and like a different place, and I'll just mix them. I don't know if that's good or bad, but I'm not particular about my embossing powder. Maybe I should be, but I'm totally not. So then this is basic black. Again, it's done in the same way. My spoon is up top there. You can see the ones I use more, it kind of becomes a mess. So then here's the white one. I know like Christina Warner and Jennifer McGuire, they have a really big tub for their white, and it's the same brand, but it's just larger. This has a lot more embossing powder in it than my other ones because I use more white. So then here is one. Now this is my heat and stick powder, and you can see I just have my lid in here, and that's because at the time I didn't label it, so I just wanted to make sure I didn't get it mixed up. This is heat and stick powder. So you use this if you want to use glitter. Okay, so embossing powder, the way it works is you use your heat tool to melt it onto your project, okay? So if you want to use something like glitter that doesn't necessarily melt, what you do is you get the heat and stick powder, you put this on your project first, you melt this, you add your glitter on top of that, then you melt it again, and then you can have your glitter be embossed, okay? So that's heat and stick powder. So then let's look at some of the other things you're going to need for embossing. First, you're going to need a heat tool. Now, I have the Stampin' Up! One. This is an older version. They have an updated version in the catalog. It's the same thing. I just happen to have the older one. And then the other thing that I have is this snappy tray. Right here, I got it on Amazon. There'll be a link on this. It just snaps together. It's super easy. It was really inexpensive. It was under $10. And this is for bigger projects. So when I'm embossing a larger project, I'll put my project over the snappy tray. I'll dump the embossing powder into the snappy tray, and then instead of using the scoop. If it's just a small item, I use the spoon. And then you have this part right here, so then you can pour this back into your container. So I have a paintbrush, and what I did when I got this is I took my embossing buddy. Okay, this has powder in it so that you can use it before you emboss. I'll show you guys this at the end. We'll emboss something, but I just wanted to go over the supplies that I have. So what I did is when I first got this, I just used this to put powder all over this item so the embossing powder is less likely to stick. So then I just keep this paintbrush in here, and this way I can clean it out. You just sweep it down, and then what I'll do is I'll just clean it like that. All of my embossing powder is not perfect. It's gotten contaminated because of the way I use it. I'm just not that particular about it. So what I do is I just keep this stuff in here, and then when I pull all of this out to emboss, I just pull it all out together. So the other thing that you're going to need to emboss is going to be Versamark ink. So on here I have old and new. The ink pads get kind of icky. They don't stay perfectly clean, but that's okay. This one got some black in it just recently on a project I was working on. It's totally fine. It's not a big deal. It doesn't transfer. It's totally fine. So I keep all of this together just like this in my drawer. I'll show you that at the end. We're going to do some embossing here right now. So I just pull all of this out when I'm ready to emboss. And then whatever powder I'm using. So today, let's use the Melon Mambo. And let's just do some test pieces so you can just see the way it works to emboss. So I have my paper pumpkin stamp set here. You can emboss with wood mount stamps, clear mount stamps, or these photopolymer stamps. So you just take your image, whatever you want. We'll do a sentiment first. We're gonna put that on our block. We're gonna take our Versamark. I usually plug in my heat gun so I don't have to wait to do that. You don't have to rush when you're embossing, but I mean, you do have to work a little bit quick. You don't wanna go make a cup of coffee and come back and then heat set it. So I open up my embossing powder. I have that. I'm going to show you both ways here. So then you want to take your embossing buddy, which has your powder, and put that all over your paper where you're going to emboss. That does a couple things. It dries out the paper from any oil that's on your hands, and then you want to try not to touch the paper with your hands, okay? Then the other thing it does is it removes any of the static that's gonna let the powder stick. You don't want the powder sticking anywhere other than where you stamp, okay? So then you're gonna take your Versamark. I'm gonna use my new one just because it's a little bit more inked up. There is a Versamark refill right here, so you can get a re-inker for your Versamark. So we're going to ink that up, and then we're just going to stamp down on our project. Now, it's hard to see where you've stamped, especially on white cardstock. If you're using like black cardstock or a darker, you know, a brown, sometimes you can tell. So if you're just using the scoop, you just scoop that in there. Tap on the back. Sometimes I flip it over and just give it a tap. Now you can see right here, I did not get enough powder up on that D. So all I have to do is go back in. And it looks like I just actually did not get enough ink down. So it's not, that part of the D was not inked. So then the next thing you do is you just heat set it. So you take your heat tool, you're gonna turn it on and wait a few seconds just so that it heats up all of the way. This part is very, very hot. It's not like a blow dryer. You cannot use a blow dryer for this technique. This is very, very hot, and it's gonna make anything that you put this heat on very, very hot. So be very careful. Then you just add the heat to the powder, and you will see that it will start to melt and it changes color. So now that's all done and it's melted. So now, and it'll be sticky at first. I probably shouldn't have touched that right away. It'll be a little sticky at first because it's melted, but then once it melts, it won't go anywhere. So again, just so that I can show you again, we'll do this one more time. We're gonna make sure all of our image is inked up. Press it down. You can see it a little bit. See that? You can see the image a little bit. We'll come back over here. Now let's use the snappy tray. So if I was doing a bigger image or a lot of images, you can take that snappy tray and pour your powder over there. Same thing, tap it off. And then you want to make sure that the embossing powder is only where you want it. So you can see like there's a little speck right there. If that melts on there, that's gonna be on there. You won't be able to get it off. So you can take a paintbrush and you can wipe it away if it does that. So let's heat set this again. Okay, so we've heat set this, and you can see it was a little bit messy. I didn't clean it up like I should have around it, so you can see now that all of that is in there. Okay, so now when you're done with the snappy tray, all you're going to do is clean it out. And you're all done. So again, now that I'm all done, I'll put the lid back on here. I store my embossing buddy right in there. My paintbrush to clean that up. And my heat tool, my heat tool just sets right on there. And then here are my embossing powders. So let me show you where I store all of these items in my Alex drawers right next to me. So here you can see my Alex drawer that has all of my embossing powders in it. It is one of the larger ones. You can see there's two ones that are smaller, and then there's three that are larger. So it is this one right here. It says embossing right on here. You pull it out, my snappy tray with all of my supplies I just showed you, my heat tool, my Versamark, my embossing buddy, that sits right down there. Then these are all stacked 3 high. And they shift a little bit, but not a lot. In the back here, you see I have 2. These are my containers that are empty. Then I have my container that has my spoon and my command hooks right there. Then there's actually an empty one right there. So these right here are not going to shift at all because they go from front to back. So then I have them stacked 3 high. The ones I use the most are usually on top: copper, white, my black, the gold. So right here, and then they're stacked 3 high, and I can just pull them. Now I do have room. I could set another one right here. I could set another 3 here and another 3 right here if I wanted to. And I can always remove that heat tool and put it another place if I needed to. But really, these are all the only embossing powders I really need. I don't feel the need to have many more than that. So they all fit in here. You can see the bottom of the drawer does get a little, it has some embossing powder and some glitter, and it's a little bit messy. That doesn't bother me. If it bothered you, you could totally put some paper towels down or a drawer liner or something to catch all of that. So I hope you enjoyed seeing this information about embossing, tips and tricks on that, how I store my stuff, and what I use. On my coordinating blog post, I will link all of the items that I talked about today. And if you have a suggestion or an idea of a Thursday topic you would like me to dive into, please just leave a comment below and I will make sure I get to that. So thank you guys so much for hanging out with me today, and I will be back tomorrow to share with you another project.